neighbor's house, and wanted to know the secret of their rapid rise in the world. The two brothers readily gave him the desired information, whereupon the eldest son immediately set off for Ch'in, hoping that his cultural attainments would recommend him to the king of that state. But the king said, "At the present moment all the feudal princes are struggling to outbid one another in power, and the greatest essential is to keep up a large army. If I tried to govern my state on the lines of benevolence and righteousness, ruin and annihilation would be the outcome." So saying, he had the unfortunate man castrated and turned him away. The second son, meanwhile, had gone to Wei, hoping that his military knowledge would stand him in good stead. But the Marquis of Wei said to himself, "Mine is a weak state, hedged in by powerful ones. My method of preserving tranquillity is to show subservience to the larger states, and to conciliate the lesser ones. If I were to rely on armed force, I could only expect utter destruction. I must not allow this man to depart unscathed, or he may find his way to some other state and be a terrible thorn in my side." So, without more ado, he cut off his feet and sent him back to Lu. On their return, the whole family fell to beating their breasts in despair, and uttered imprecations on Mr. Hsi. Mr. Hsi, however, said, "Success consists in hitting off the right moment, while missing it means failure. Your method was identical with ours, only the result was different. That is not due to any flaw in the action itself, but simply because it was not well timed. Nothing in the ordering of this world is either at all times right or at all times wrong. What formerly passed current may nowadays be rejected. What is now rejected may by and by come into use again. The fact that a thing is in use or in disuse forms no criterion whatever of right or wrong. There is no fixed rule for seizing opportunities, hitting off the right moment, or adapting oneself to circumstances. It is all a matter of native wit. If you are deficient in that, you may possess the learning of a Confucius, or the strategical gifts of a Liu Shang, and yet you will remain poor wherever you go." The Meng family were now in a more resigned frame of mind, and their indignation had subsided. "Yes, you are right," they said. "Please say no more about it." Duke Wan of Qin put an army into the field with the intention of attacking the Duke of Wei, whereat 101 threw his head back and laughed aloud. On being asked the reason of his behavior, he replied, "I was thinking of the experience of a neighbor of mine, who was escorting his wife on a visit to her own family. On the way, he came across a woman tending silkworms, who attracted him greatly, and he fell into conversation with her. Happening to look up, what should he see but his own wife also receiving the attentions of an admirer? It was the recollection of this incident that made me laugh." The Duke saw the point, and forthwith turned home with his army. Before he got back, an invading force had already crossed his northern frontier. As you behave to others, so others will behave to you. He who rides roughshod towards the accomplishment of his own desires, in the belief that it will not occur to others to do the like, will in all probability find himself circumstanced as above. In the Qin state, which was infested with robbers, there lived a certain Chi Yong, who was able to tell a robber by his face. By examining the expression of his eyes, he could read his inmost thoughts. The Marquis of Qin employed him in the inspection of hundreds and thousands of robbers, and he never missed a single one. The Marquis expressed his delight to 101 of Jiao, saying, "I have a man who, single-handed, is ridding my whole state of robbers." he saves me the necessity of employing a whole staff of police. 1-tzü replied, "If your Highness relies on a detective for catching robbers, you will never get rid of them. And what is more, Chiyong is certain, sooner or later, to meet with a violent end." Meanwhile, a band of robbers were plotting together. "Chiyong," they said, "is the enemy who is trying to exterminate us." So one day they stole upon him in a body and murdered him. When the Marquis of Ch'in heard the news, he was greatly alarmed and immediately sent for 1-tzü. "Your prophecy has come true," he said. "Chiyong is dead. What means can I adopt for catching robbers now?" "In Jiao," replied 1-tzü, "we have a proverb: Search not the ocean depths for fish. Calamity comes upon those who pry into hidden mysteries. If you want to be quit of robbers, the best thing your Highness can do is to promote the worthy to office. Let them instruct and enlighten their sovereign on the one hand, and reform the masses below them on the other. If once the people acquire a sense of shame, you will not find them turning into robbers." The Marquis then appointed Lieh-tzü to be Prime Minister, and all the robbers fled to the Jin state. Duke Mu of Jin said to Bo-lo, "You are now advanced in years. Is there any member of your family whom I could employ to look for horses in your stead?" Bo-lo replied, "A good horse can be picked out by its general build and appearance, but the superlative horse, one that raises no dust and leaves no tracks, is something evanescent and fleeting, elusive as thin air. The talent of my sons lies on a lower plane altogether. They can tell a good horse when they see one, but they cannot tell a superlative horse. I have a friend, however, one Chiao Fong Gao, a hawker of fuel and vegetables, who, in things appertaining to horses, is nowise my inferior. Pray see him." Duke Mu did so, and subsequently dispatched him on the quest for a steed. 3 months later he returned with the news that he had found one. "It is now in Sha Jiao," he added. "What kind of horse is it?" asked the Duke. "Oh, it is a dun-colored mare," was the reply. However, on someone being sent to fetch it, the animal turned out to be a coal-black stallion. Much displeased, the Duke sent for Bo-lo. "That friend of yours," he said, "whom I commissioned to look for a horse has made a nice mess of it. Why, he cannot even distinguish a beast's color or sex. What on earth can he know about horses?" Bo-lo heaved a sigh of satisfaction. "Has he really got as far as that?" he cried. "Ah, then he is worth 1,000 of me put together. There is no comparison between us." What Gao keeps in view is the spiritual mechanism. In making sure of the essential, he forgets the homely details. Intent on the inward qualities, he loses sight of the external. He sees what he wants to see, and not what he does not want to see. He looks at the things he ought to look at, and neglects those that need not be looked at. So clever a judge of horses is Gao, that he has it in him to judge something better than horses. When the horse arrived, it turned out indeed to be a superlative horse. Mr. Yu was a wealthy man of the Liang state. His household was rolling in riches, and his hoards of money and silk and other valuables were quite incalculable. It was his custom to have banquets served, to the accompaniment of music, in a high upper hall overlooking the main road. There he and his friends would sit drinking their wine and amusing themselves with bouts of gambling. One day, a party of young gallants happened to pass along the road. In the chamber above, play was going on as usual, and a lucky throw